Hey there, Peter from Universal Dork back again today with a brand new video where we're going to be talking about the fourth best Star Wars film of all time. And I'm not talking about Revenge of the Sith, I'm not talking about Rogue One or The Force Awakens. Today I am talking about
Ewoks.
Battle for Endor.
Yes, this in my opinion is the fourth best Star Wars film. For me, in order of the best Star Wars films, I would have to say my favorite is a tie between Return of the Jedi and The Empire Strikes Back. I just can't choose which one of those I think is the best, and then A New Hope. So yeah, right here we've got Wicket right on my shirt here, representing him today. One of the greatest Star Wars characters of all time. And, little known fact, one of the main Star Wars characters that has the most screen time, being that he stars in 2.5 movies. So he's in Battle for Endor. So right here I've got Battle for Endor and Caravan of Courage, the Ewok Adventures DVD. Now I used to have both of these on VHS. Every now and again I'll grab them for myself and just keep them because I like the original covers on those VHS so much. But to be honest, I've noticed that they immediately sell when I put those either Caravan of Courage or the Battle for Endor for sale in the store on VHS. They usually sell within the first day that I put them out. And this has happened many times. You've got to have the fourth best Star Wars film, and probably the fifth. The Caravan of Courage, I would say, is probably the fifth best Star Wars film. Then after that, I would probably have to say Revenge of the Sith, even though I'm not a big fan of the prequels at all. I really want to be. I know that there's sort of this resurgence out there now. Everyone loves the prequel trilogy, and everyone that saw those in the theater now, they're all grown up, and they love that shit. I remember seeing that in the theater, and wow, that was a major bummer. So I would say about 5 years, I give those movies another shot. I always think, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe this time, enough time has passed that these films will start feeling like real Star Wars to me, but it just never fucking happened. I guess the closest that I could get to feeling the real spirit of Star Wars would have to be Revenge of the Sith, even though the last time I tried to watch that, I would say about 1.5 years ago, I didn't even make it through the first 45 minutes. I just turned it off. I was like, I don't fucking care about this shit. I think that there's a good story there Lucas came up with. He should never have been the director of all of these. He should have had people telling him no. Could have written the basic stories for this and really hired some fantastic directors to helm those productions. But unfortunately, he was around a lot of yes men doing whatever he said and whatever he wanted, he put to screen. So, I mean, kudos for him for doing it. It's unfortunate that he sold the company to Disney because, in my opinion, the stuff that has come after the prequels is even fucking worse. I'm here to say that these two movies are written, the story for both of these, you can see it in the opening credits, are, of course, George Lucas. So they've got a lot more of the fucking original spirit of Star Wars going for them than this high-budget Disney fan fiction that we're getting. This Disney stuff. I used to, be incredibly upset about this. I would, talk shit about. I mean, I'm always open to talk shit about the Disney Star Wars stuff. So I'm no longer bothered by it. I don't consider any of that stuff coming out to be anywhere close to George Lucas's vision. If Disney was smart, they would have taken his treatment for the sequel trilogy that he wrote, and they would have used it. And imagine at the very least when the sequel trilogy came out, seeing written by or story by George Lucas. None of us will ever really know, likely, what really happened to Han, Luke, Leia, Chewbacca, C-3PO, Lando, all the characters that we love. Instead, we got people like J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson giving us a bunch of bullshit. That's unfortunate, but I don't care anymore. So I moved on. Battle for Endor delivers the goddamn goods. And also, I would say Caravan of Courage, which is the first one. Caravan of Courage came out in 1984. Taking place after the events of Return of the Jedi. So, if you are a fan of Star Wars, and you're one of the people like me who actually appreciate and enjoy the Ewoks, then I think that you might just agree that Battle for Endor is indeed the fourth best Star Wars film. Alright, so last night, I had a movie night here in the shop. It was a friend of mine's birthday, and he chose the Battle for Endor first, and we followed it up with Return of the Jedi. Now, I believe that Disney Plus has recently uploaded both of these. I would just get the DVD or the VHS. It sort of cheapens the experience, I think, to watch these streaming on Disney Plus. It just, for me, sort of ruins it. So I like to be separate from the Disney Star Wars stuff. Nothing against Disney. I love a lot of Disney stuff, but I think most of the shit that they're doing today with the MCU and Star Wars does indeed fucking blow. This one is the widescreen limited edition. It's got the gold color on it. It comes normally in a box set of 3 movies. Interesting thing about this particular one is this goes for a pretty penny on eBay because it is the only version on DVD. There's no Blu-ray of the original theatrical cuts, the Star Wars films without all the added CGI bullshit with the aliens doing cartwheels in the background in every frame that George Lucas decided was a much better idea. Has that version, but it also on disc number 2 has the original theatrical cut. But for some reason, they don't want anyone to see that anymore. But that's beside the point. Now, I would say Battle for Endor, the best way to describe this one, feels right in line with those creepy kids movies of the 1980s like Return to Oz, The Dark Crystal, The Witches, Something Wicked This Way Comes. So Battle for Endor is a lot darker than the original. The original Ewok movie basically shows this family with this girl here, Sindel, and, you know, we've got her brother, and then we've got the guy, I can't remember what the fuck his name is, the guy who's the principal in the Breakfast Club, you know, mess with the bull, you'll get the horns. He's actually the father in here.
Tell your mother I got the main unit repaired. It shouldn't be long now.
This family here gets stranded on the moon of Endor with the Ewoks. They make friends with them in the first movie. There's a couple of giants that come into play that's pretty cool. There's some pretty decent monsters, a fun adventure that happens, but then things get very dark in Battle for Endor. Sindel, the little blonde girl here, is played by an actor named Aubrey Miller. The only 2 movies that she ever starred in were these 2. So she is a pretty classic Star Wars character in my opinion as well. And Disney, you know, I really don't want to recommend this to you guys at Disney, but the best idea that I could come up with would be to make a streaming show featuring the Ewoks and bring back Aubrey Miller. She says at the end of the movie here that she's going to return someday. So that would be a great series that you could make. I'm sure that you would fuck it all up. You already fucked up Willow. You'd have to bring back Warwick Davis again if you could get him and go on another adventure. Meet an older, grayer Wicket. I would say that would be my idea, but I digress. Battle for Endor comes swinging right out of the gates here with some highly dark shit. So Sindel, the little girl here, her family is murdered within probably the first 5 minutes of the film by a group of monstrous marauders that also have with them some sort of witch type woman.
There's no escape for you, my little one.
Who doesn't appear to be using the Force. She's got some other style of magic that she's using to turn herself into a crow and then shoot like energy beams and stuff like that. She's also part of this posse that are riding on these big stop-motion dinosaur-like creatures. Actually, Jon Favreau lifted them from Battle for Endor and put them in The Mandalorian. In fact, if you haven't seen this before, you'll immediately recognize the creature as seen in The Mandalorian. So very interesting there. I gotta commend Favreau for that, at least. Now this band of vicious marauders and the witch, they're done with pretty cool practical makeup effects, have that classic Star Wars look and feel to them, right down to the stop-motion monsters in this movie, which there are several. So if you like that stuff from Return of the Jedi and all of the previous Star Wars films, this is got that exact same vibe. So it really does, in many ways, have the feel of the original trilogy, and that is what I appreciate so much about these 2 films, and especially the second one. They take the Ewoks captive, and I've got to say, it's pretty fucking disturbing. And Sindel becomes an orphan because she is also taken captive along with them. These marauders, they're kind of primitive creatures on this planet. Numbnuts, I will say, they're all fucking numbnuts. Even the main villain is pretty much a bonehead. Honestly, his whole gang of minions and monsters that serve him, they're complete numbnuts. The type that could be defeated by like a 6-year-old kid like this girl, and a bunch of Ewoks with no weapons. Sindel here and Wicket, they are being transported along with some other Ewoks to the evil monster's lair. And it doesn't take them long to figure out that they can rip up the floorboards on this cart that they're being pulled in and pretty easily escape. And once they escape into the night, the two of them embark on a pretty fantastic adventure. Along the way, there are a ton of cool monsters they encounter. There's a great hang gliding scene. They end up in the woods after that. They happen upon this kind of hobbit house type of thing. Now, I believe that this is all filmed in the redwoods of California. It certainly looks like the same place that the Return of the Jedi was filmed. I wouldn't be surprised if it was actually the same place, but they happen upon this house. It's made of all of these strange tree roots and stuff that appears to be abandoned. They decide to stay there for the night. And that is where we meet probably my favorite character, is this weird little Muppet guy named Teak, a mix between, I would say, like a chimpanzee and a rat. And he's got this superpower that makes him able to move at very high speeds. So he kind of moves around like the Flash from DC Comics or like Quicksilver from Marvel. He's able to outsmart enemies and get in and out of places very quickly, and sometimes even fight people a little bit by moving really quickly all over the place. He's a really cool character. He's got a really hilarious face. He's always smiling, and he's always got some stupid look on his face. But that's not all. This little bugger Teak has got a partner in crime here that he lives with in this house. And it is this character named Noah, played by Wilford Brimley, another kind of castaway on the moon of Endor, who has been there for many years. He's got a ship there that's missing a power cell. So that some things end up coming together with that and connecting. Now, the interesting thing about Wilford Brimley is, in this movie, he looks like he's about 75 years old. But in real life here, in 1984 or 85 when this was filmed, he was 50 years old. He also starred in another movie called Cocoon, where he plays a senior citizen. And in Cocoon, he was actually in his late 40s. I think he was 48 or 49. In that film, he plays someone who's probably about 75 years old. And in fact, the rest of the cast of that film that star with him were indeed 25 to 30 years older than Brimley in Cocoon. And that movie's a real gem. If you've never seen Cocoon, you've got to go check that out. A really great sci-fi comedy with a ton of heart about senior citizens who discover this strange alien egg sort of pod in a nearby swimming pool that they're sneaking into next door to the senior citizen home. And it starts changing them in ways because they decide to keep swimming in the pool with this thing. That movie is a real gem. So really, in a nutshell here, we're getting, in my opinion, some classic George Lucas Star Wars stuff. Of course, it's Ewok related, and I know not everyone loves the Ewoks, but this is some top-notch Lucasfilm special effects going on here, combining all of the practical effects, the makeup effects, the monsters, the adventure, the settings, locales, all the sets that were built. There's like dungeons and jails and castles and creatures and caves. It's jam-packed with all the stuff that makes Star Wars really great, in my opinion. Of course, the budget is not as high, but I think this one had a pretty good one for a TV movie. I think it was $3 or $4 million, maybe a little bit more. They go some dark places for a kid's film, and even honestly for an adult film. This does have real stakes, and there is some real danger around every corner. Even if some of the villains are numbnuts, what's going on here, they aren't fucking around. And one thing you gotta remember is, just because someone is a numbnut, that doesn't mean that they can't be a motherfucking dangerous son of a bitch numbnut. So kudos to Lucas for a cool story, utilizing all of these special effects, these matte paintings. It makes me really wish that Hollywood would go back to some of those old styles. In fact, maybe try to make a few movies that don't utilize any of the new special effects, say, past 1990. Imagine what they could do now. The director of this film are two guys, Jim and Ken Wheat. They did another movie. When I looked at their IMDb and Letterboxd page, I'm surprised to see that they did this film called After Midnight, this horror anthology from 1989. Not the best film, but I remember there was a pretty cool segment in that one. I think it was the finale with some living skeleton running around, if my memory serves me correct. They also wrote some other pretty cool horror movies. They wrote the 1979 slasher film Silent Scream. They actually wrote Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Dream Master from 1988, The Fly 2, pretty impressive there. And they wrote the screenplay for the Vin Diesel movie Pitch Black. So these guys have been around the block, and you can see some of their influences here. You can see some of the elements of horror that they incorporated into the Battle for Endor. So if you're feeling like some of this new Star Wars, like the Alkalite and this, Kenobi bullshit, all of this bad Boba Fett stuff, if you're feeling like going back and maybe checking something out, maybe for the first time or a rewatch, I definitely think these two are a lot of fun, especially if you're not opposed to the Ewoks, which I know some people are. I would love to hear other channels give these movies more credit. I've never heard like Star Wars Theory, probably the most popular Star Wars YouTube channel. I've never heard him talk about, Caravan of Courage or Battle for Endor. Hey, if you're listening, I think that you should give these a little bit of a showcase on your channel because they're pretty top notch. And I know you love Lucas. So if you love Lucas Star Wars, give these a whirl, especially Battle for Endor. It is so much fun. And like I said, it is the 4th best Star Wars film of all time. Let me know what you think in the comments. I know a lot of people are probably going to bitch at me and say I'm fucking crazy for even suggesting that Battle for Endor is the 4th best Star Wars film. But hey, facts are facts. So may the Force be with you. Until next time.